are still a democracy? How would we know if we had crossed into what you call competitive authoritarianism? How would we know if we were further along than that into some other kind of authoritarian system? And do you have good reference points or comparison sets that you think would be useful in helping people wrap their minds around that?
So those are tough questions, particularly when it comes to competitive authoritarianism, because in unlike kind of traditional dictatorships, single party dictatorships or military dictatorships, competitive authoritarian regimes, at least from at first glance, look pretty democratic. The Constitution remains intact. The opposition is legal and above ground. There continue to be competitive elections, and so you've got to look closely to really assess whether we cross the line. Now, you asked, how would we know if we were beyond competitive authoritarianism and something worse? I would say that's a little easier if existing institutions, particularly elections, can't be used to remove the government, then you're in something worse than competitive authoritarianism. If elections are no longer meaningful, and the opposition the incumbent can't be removed via elections, then we're in an outright good old school dictatorship. I think we're not there. But figuring out how, when and where the line is between democracy, which always includes, all democracies have occasional abuse of power. That's single abuse of power is not enough to classify something as competitive authoritarian. How do you know when you've crossed the line? I've been thinking a lot about this because that's an important question for all of us to ask these days. And where I've been thinking recently is about the cost of public opposition. In a democracy, it should not be costly or risky for an individual to write an article, publish an article criticizing the government, join a protest against the government, providing its legal, peaceful protest, should not pay a price for giving money to an opposition party, working for an opposition candidate. In a democracy, those things should be normal, should be costless. Nobody should think twice about the decision to give money to an opposition candidate or attend a peaceful protest. In an authoritarian regime, opposition is invariably costly and risky. You pay some price for publicly aligning yourself with the opposition or publicly criticizing the government. Now, in most competitive authoritarian regimes, that price is not death or lifetime imprisonment or exile, but there are prices. Will donors to the Democratic Party be investigated and targeted by the IRS? Many donors fear that is the case. If you're a law firm that worked with either the Democratic Party or civil society organizations that have opposed Trump, will you be blackballed and possibly driven into bankruptcy? If you're a university that is considered to be left of center or politically tilted towards the opposition, will you be targeted by massive funding cuts? If you're an independent media outlet, will you be targeted with a defamation lawsuit, or will your parent company receive adverse regulatory rulings? If you're a Republican lawmaker, will you face death threats if you get in the crosshairs of President Trump? The answer to all of those questions today, just 10 weeks into the Trump presidency, is yeah, quite plausibly. And so to me, that is when you see people across civil society, leaders of organizations, university presidents, CEOs, editors of newspapers, maybe church leaders, politicians on both sides of the aisle, donors, political, people who give money to political organizations, when they are worrying, thinking twice about normal, peaceful acts of opposition because they know or believe that there's a risk of government retribution attached to that behavior, then you know you've probably crossed the line. And I actually think we crossed that line pretty quickly in 2025.